When we live by the hormones of stress, we live in autonomic dysregulation. That's imbalance, that's incoherence. That's when the autonomic nervous system is not sending orderly signals to the cells and tissues, the organs and systems of the body. That interference in the static of information, the incoherence, the cells are not getting the proper information. Information travels better on coherent waves. So when we saw this kind of regulation in gamma, it's very, very high frequency. It's difficult for all of us if we were in a room. If we were clapping in beta, we may be clapping like this. And all of us can do that together. If we're clapping in alpha, it may be like this. And we can all clap coherently. The brain can handle that. When you're clapping in theta, you have even slower rhythms. And if you're clapping in delta, then you have a clap, and then a very long pause, and then another clap, and the brain is slowing down. The neocortex is slowing down. But when we go into gamma, gamma is actually faster than beta. And for all of us, if we were individual brain cells, to be able to do this together at the same time, the faster we go, the harder it is to stay coherent. And it takes an awareness, it takes an energy, it takes an order. And that orderliness is intelligence, it's consciousness. And so this kind of fast frequency in the brain where the whole entire brain is beating at one rhythm, all the cells are dancing to the same music. The interference that takes place in the brain is very constructive, and energy starts to build. And so we decided then to demystify the process and say, okay, what if we were able to track the brainwave patterns in slowing the brain down, and what if we could measure what that moment was where that person started to connect to something profound? Could we predict it? Could we replicate it? And so we decided to hook up the heart to the brain with an ECG on our brain measurements. And we started seeing people that were going into this heart coherent state, like beating a drum. There was a frequency, like a wave, that began to influence the brain after the heart had a big volume, a stroke volume, when it had a big pump, when it was coherent. There would be two beautiful, or three beautiful patterns of coherent alpha in the brain. In other words, the heart was informing the brain to create. That's what alpha is. It's that imaginary creative state. And that orderliness is carrying information. It's carrying new ideas. It's carrying new concepts. It's telling the brain there's no longer a trauma. The body is believing something's favorable is happening in the environment. And we started seeing when the heart and the brain started working coherently, something amazing started to happen. The person started to relax even more into that feeling. And as they relaxed more and forgot about themselves, they moved into coherent theta patterns. And this is where it got interesting, because it was the coherent theta then, in slowing down, that opened the door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind to become suggestible to information. Now, when a hypnotist is hypnotizing somebody and he's able to get a person into a suggestible state, a hypnotic state, normally most suggestible people are in a very low level of alpha or theta. And so the information that they're getting through what they're hearing, what they're seeing, what they're experiencing is programming the subconscious mind. And the door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is open, and all of a sudden you can start affecting a person's behaviors. But what if your eyes are closed and there's music playing in the background and you're not moving and you're not experiencing and you're not smelling and you're not tasting and you're not feeling, and all that work you've been doing into opening your awareness to space, to energy, to information, and to find a frequency of wholeness or oneness and tune into it. If the brain is in a slow state and the person's in theta, lights that go out in the thinking neocortex, the memory bank of the known self, your connection to your outer world, your connection to your body, your level of awareness of self and everything around you becomes diminished, and something amazing happens. When you tune in, an energy moves into the autonomic nervous system as lights go out in the mechanism, and you can stay in theta and tune into coherent information. If the brain starts processing frequency in harmonics, it starts to be entrained to information in the field, and now the person becomes suggestible to information that's being carried on waves or frequencies. And as you know, the pineal gland then is the radio receiver that picks up that encoded message and then descrambles into profound imagery. And the person starts having a very profound moment, and there's an arousal that takes place, and that's when they go into that gamma state, and then all the derivatives of melatonin begin to cause the person to translate that information into their biology. And many times, there's rewiring of circuitry and the past disappears. Many times, the arousal sends a new signal to the body, and the body gets a biological upgrade. And the upgrades then cause the person to change their identity, to change their personality, to be more relaxed in the present moment, to have a broader spectrum of what they perceive as reality. They have the circuitry in their brain to perceive what really exists outside the virtual reality headset, the illusion of separation, and experience their attention on something outside that world that they think is real. Then all of a sudden the brain begins to integrate that through its circuitry to broaden its spectrum, to see more of reality than before. And so the scientists got a hold of me and said, we have such compelling data to show that novice meditators, they make great changes, but your experienced meditators are truly supernatural. Now, when we started talking to some of the participants, their experience of what happened during their walking meditation, their experience of what happened when they were administering a coherence healing, their experience when they were willing to lose their sense of separation, their sense of identity, their sense of what's known, to take all of their attention off their outer environment on things and matter and people and objects and the place they're sitting and put it on energy and frequency, that when they had that kind of connection and they're able to do it properly, we started seeing that there were very healthy and profound changes that would take place in people's biologies. And their stories were so profound that when we saw their objective measurements and we heard their subjective stories, and they were so transcendental and so cool, when they became nothing, when they connected to Source, they had an experience, and that experience to them was very real because they felt it. And as some of you know, we decided to expose it to a pseudovirus that represents a SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, the SARS virus. And it was interesting because we saw that people who do the work regularly have more of a resistance to conditions in their environment. More than likely, they're less reactionary or victimized by their environment. They're paying attention to their inner environment equally. So they're not reacting, responding, and saying it's that person or that circumstance that's making me feel and think this way. Our community knows how to self-regulate. So we saw that our advanced community had a little bit sense of greater immunity to their environment. They were more immune to their environment because their environment or their responses weren't weakening them. So I thought, wow, that's so important to see that it was that significant. But when we took their blood after a week-long event and we subjected their blood to the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the pseudovirus, we saw that there was a dramatic resistance to the virus. A dramatic immunity was taking place from experienced meditators in just 1 week. And so now we're catching the attention of many scientific communities because it's such a profound story. And the researchers always say to me, God, do you know what this means? Do you know what this means? And I always say, of course I know what this means. I've been waiting for this day for years. I always believed it was possible. So we have great evidence to show now that experienced meditators can develop a natural immunity to the environment. And it doesn't mean it works with some things and not others. If we truly continue to do the work and we truly continue to overcome our circumstances, the side effect is that there's a healthy change in our biology. Now we're less reactionary, we're living less in stress, we're living less in emergency state, and there's more energy for the immune system to cultivate healthy white blood cells and to be able to memorize any agent that